Okay, thank you. Now I'll move swiftly to Dr. Gallia Lindenstrauss. Dr. Lindenstrauss is a research fellow at the Institute for National Security Studies, specialized in Turkish foreign policy. Her additional research interests are ethnic conflicts, Azerbaijan's foreign policy, the Cyprus issue, and the Kurds. She completed her PhD in the Department of International Relations at the Hebrew University. Her commentaries and op-eds have appeared in all the Israeli major media outlets, as well as in international outlets such as National Interest, Hurriyet Daily News, Turkey Analyst, and Inside Turkey. Dr. Lindenstrauss lectured at the Interdisciplinary Center at Herzliya and has previously lectured also at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The title of her presentation today is Turkey, the EU, and the Syrian Refugee Crisis.
Thank you very much. It's really a wonderful opportunity to be here, and I'm really excited about this workshop, and thank you for the organizers, and especially Dr. Berti. I want to talk about Turkey, the EU, and the Syrian refugee crisis, and of course, more specifically, about the EU-Turkey refugee deal. My main point is that basically, as was mentioned by Dr. Wolf and by Professor Salzberger, the EU has lost quite a lot of moral high ground with this deal. I think also Turkey lost quite a lot of prestige. Turkey's policy towards the Syrian refugees, its open door policy was basically a commendable policy, and it's now seen as a manipulative actor, and I think it lost quite a lot. But with regard to the refugees, I actually think, and this is still open to future analysis, I think actually this might have pushed Turkey to accelerate its thinking about integration of these refugees, which probably most of them will remain in Turkey, and I think maybe that's actually a good thing, but this remains to be seen. A bit of background about the Syrian refugees in Turkey. I'm sure in this audience I won't this is old news for this audience, but we know that the Syrian situation is the worst humanitarian crisis probably for sure from the end of the Cold War and maybe even earlier. We're talking about more than half of the Syrian population that is displaced, and of this displaced people, around 5 million are refugees. Turkey has absorbed the largest number of these refugees. It has absorbed 2.7 million refugees, of which 300,000 are in 26 refugee camps, and of course most of the other population is in the cities. Turkey has already spent $10 billion on the Syrian refugees, and this cost is accelerating. We're talking now the approximate monthly cost of this absorption is $500 million. Turkey is a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention, but it has a geographical limitation. It only accepts refugees from Europe. So the Syrian refugees are, of course, non-Europeans. So they only enjoy a guest status, and they enjoy temporary protection. I mean, they're not expelled, but they're not, they don't have an official refugee status. When the events in Syria began in 2011, Turkey was very generous and said everybody can enter our border. They did an open door policy. But since December 2015, they basically changed their policy, and now it's basically closed border. The borders are shut. Some people move, but in large instances where a large amount of people wanted to move to the Turkish side, Turkey did not allow this since December 2015. Most of the refugees are concentrated in southeast Turkey along the border with Syria, but there are large quantities of refugees also in the major Turkish cities, such as Istanbul, that hosts more than 300,000 refugees. What was the assumptions behind Turkey's open door policy? And as you see, all these assumptions were proven wrong. One was that Assad's downfall was imminent. We'll show a lot of generosity, but Assad will fall in a few months. But as we know, Assad is still with us. Another assumption was that the refugees will remain in the refugee camps. But as I showed you in the figures, only a minority of the refugees are currently in refugee camps. A third assumption was that the refugees would return home after the conflict ended. But we know from other cases in other conflicts, that refugees many times stay in the state that they arrive to. And also the Syrian state is so devastated that it will be very hard for these refugees to come home because they have nowhere to come back to. And lastly, there was an assumption that it would contribute to Turkey's soft power, that these refugees would come home, say how wonderful they were, the hospitality in Turkey, how wonderful it was, and that this would add to Turkey's soft power. But as we see, it had gained some prestige to Turkey, but it also got a lot of criticism. For example, its open doors policy got a lot of criticism that it's also allowing terrorists to go to, specifically to the Islamic State in Syria, and allowing these terrorists to go back to Europe. So instead of saying, oh, this is a good policy, this open door policy, it's basically saying, oh, you're allowing terrorists to do whatever they want. So even in this aspect, I think Turkey, for some degree, lost.
What is soft power?
Perhaps
Soft power, what is it?
When we talk about hard power, we talk about military capabilities. That showing you have your military strengths and you show your capabilities, and that's why everybody does what you want. When you're talking about soft power, we're talking of things that are more cultural influence, more dimensions that are soft, public diplomacy, elements like that. Thank you for your question. In 2015, something happened. The refugees, there was a fourfold increase in the number of refugees arriving to Europe. Okay. From around 200,000, we have now 800,000 refugees arrived to Syria, to Europe, of which most of them were Syrians. So what happened in 2015? From the European perspective, Turkey did something wrong, or Turkey did something manipulative and just let these refugees go to Europe. But you can also offer other explanations, and I think we don't know the answer, that the refugees just got despaired. They understood that the situation in Syria was not improving. They understood that that the political solution to Syria is not going anywhere, and they were not that happy in Turkey, and they just moved on because they were despaired. So again, history will judge, but something happened in 2015. There was a sharp increase in the refugees arriving to Europe. There was a sharp increase of the deaths in the Mediterranean, specifically in the Aegean Sea, and Europe and Turkey understood that something needs to be done. And indeed, we have actually two refugees. When we usually talk about only one refugee deals, but it's two deals. One was signed in November 2015, and one was signed in March 2016. And the bottom line of this deal is basically that Turkey will serve as a buffer for Europe, and Turkey will stop the migrants from coming to Europe. But the more specifics of the details is that Turkey will get, in the next 3 years, 6 billion euros. There will be opening, was already opening of new chapters in Turkey-EU accession talks. When Turkish citizens want to go to Europe, they have to get a visa. Okay, Turkey is the only state that is trying to get accepted to the European Union, in which its citizens need visa. Just to remind you, Israeli citizens do not need a visa to Europe. But Turkish citizens need. So this visa-free issue is a big issue between Turkey and the EU, and the EU-Turkey deal was the Turkish citizens were supposed to get these visas in the end of this June. It's not going to happen, but this was the idea in the deal. And the most criticized element of this EU-Turkey deal was that the one-per-one clause, which basically said that in exchange for Turkey readmission of asylum seekers that arrived illegally to Greece, the EU will accept refugees that entered legally to Turkey. So, and the idea of this clause was basically to deter people from arriving to Greece. Okay, to say it's pointless to arrive to Greece because you'll just be returned to Turkey, and that would stop this, at least this route in the Aegean Sea between Greece and Turkey. And just to make clear, the EU only agreed to accept up till 72,000 refugees from Turkey. That's all the EU agreed to. So if you take this number and you compare it to the 2.7 number of refugees, you understand that the EU was only a fraction is going to accept to its territory. This was the open deal, the publicized clause. Of course, there's an underlined aspect of this deal, and that is that Turkey expects less criticism from the EU, both for its growing authoritarian trends and to its policies towards the Kurds. And indeed, we see that the EU has voiced less criticism than was expected. And we even see there was a leaking of a document in which it's clear that the EU suspended the publication of a critical report on Turkey until the end of the Turkish general elections. It has its annual report that it does a report on the progress of Turkey in its liberalizing trends, and they did this report, and they knew it was the Turkish government would not like it, so they suspended the publication of this report until after the elections. So this is the other element of this deal, the non-publicized element of the deal. We can only talk about short-term results. We're still, it's just March 2016 that deal was signed. So just short-term results. First of all, in terms of decreasing the number of refugees crossing the Aegean and refugees that are risking their lives, it has worked. Okay, there was a significant decrease between March, if you compare March figures to February figures, about a significant decrease of people attempting to cross the Aegean. We see that there was a very sharp criticism on this agreement from both the UNHCR agency and also the big actors in the human rights NGOs playground, which is Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, Doctors Without Borders. All of these have sharply criticized this agreement, saying that this is a collective punishment, that Turkey is not a safe third country, and that basically a lot of bad things are happening in Turkey, and the EU is not voicing its criticism. So we see a lot of criticism from this area. And I would say there's also growing suspicion between the EU and Turkey. The deal was supposed to accelerate the talks on Turkey's EU accession. The visa deal was supposed to happen, but these things are not happening, and this is making both sides angry. Public opinion is angry, and this is influencing leaders. We see in Germany the rise in satire programs about Turkey, and this is causing, and President Erdogan does not like criticism, and he's being, and this is causing a crisis between Turkey and Germany. We had the German parliament recognition of the Armenian genocide, which is questionable. Why did it happen now and not a year ago when it was the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide? So you see that these things are getting an effect on the relations between EU and Turkey. There's also misuse of this agreement during the Brexit campaign. People those who are in favor of Britain exiting the EU are basically saying the Turks are going to invade your country. And this is quite puzzling because only 14% of the Turks have passports. And of these people, some are already exempt of the visa. And this agreement also currently between Turkey and the EU only talks about visa-free travel. It doesn't talk about people getting work permits inside Great Britain. So it's misused in the Brexit campaign. And I think also this, I want to highlight here that when we talk about refugees and we talk about soft power and soft issues and human security, this is really strategic. If Britain will exit the EU because of the refugee issues, then refugees are a strategic issue. It's no longer something soft, humanitarian, it's something which is in itself important, but just saying that this is also strategic. The last point I want to talk about is the issue of integration. As I said, I think this EU-Turkey deal has been bad to the EU and has been bad to Turkey's reputation. But I think in the long term, maybe it will prove that it also has benefits. The deal has already pushed Turkey in January 2016 to do legislation to allow the refugees to get work permits. It's very shaky. The number of work permits that have been allocated is very small. We're talking, the highest number I saw is 17,200. It's not a big number. Again, remember we are talking about 2.7 million refugees, but it's a step. The money the European Union is giving also should go to education. Currently, more than half of the children in Syrian refugee children in Turkey are not getting education, are not going to schools. This money should allow Turkey to get more children into schools. With regard to health, Turkey has been very generous, and basically if you are a registered refugee, you can access Turkish health system. But there are also problems in this aspect, and there are quite a lot of Syrian refugees that are not registered and they cannot access. And also the question of how do you allow Syrian doctors to get employed in Turkey. This is things that are now debated. And lastly, the issue of citizenship. Turkey, like Israel, the citizenship law is basically only for people with Turkish descent. That's the only people who are eligible for citizenship. So it's difficult. It's a difficult process to change this orientation. But in terms of residency, some of the Syrian refugees are already 5 years in Turkey, which is one of the demands in order to apply for citizenship. So this is, again, it's moving. There's a lot of resistance in Turkish public opinion. People think that already in the issue of work permits, that if the refugees are getting work permits, it's only because Erdogan thinks that these are potential voters to the Justice and Development Party. So there is resistance, but again, there's thinking about it. There's understanding that these people are here to stay. And this is a very important understanding, and we're in the first step. So to summarize, I think this element that there's growing recognition in Turkey that most of these refugees will stay is important. But as we know from other places, and specifically because of the Turkish special context, there are challenges of integration. And these challenges Turkey cannot deal with alone and does need international assistance. The EU-Turkey deal is a short-time success in the sense that there was a reduction of the number of refugees trying to cross from Turkey to Greece illegally. However, it has caused a lot of suspicion between the sides, a feeling that Turkey is manipulative, using these things, and I think Dr. Wolf voiced this rhetoric very, very clearly, that Turkey is using this for its geostrategic purposes. But also I think the Turkish rhetoric is also powerful, that the EU is basically evading its responsibilities. And I think that's something food for thought. So thank you very much.